Right. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. If you don't know, I think you all do. I'm Rave, and I'm the president of Scribblers this evening. Tonight's launch will be chaired by our fantastic editor-in-chief, Caitlin. Hi, Caitlin. You look very pretty.
Hi. I put effort in.
You did. It's paid off. Caitlin has a myriad of publications under her own belt, including Jumble Magazine, The Honest Ulsterman, and recently, the 11.5 Literary Journal. We in Scribblers know her best as our society's PR officer. Hi, Caitlin. Take it away.
I'm going to give a bit of a rundown of how the Apiary started. So I initially come from a political student voice background. Around the time I came onto the board, I came onto committee of Scribblers. I was actually finishing up with the Irish Secondary School Union following a term I did with them, and essentially I noticed a massive gap in Queen's undergrad for a chance for student voice to be heard creatively. And so I came onto committee and I said, hi, can we start a literary magazine? And everyone went, yes, we've been trying to do that for years now. And I went, okay. So then I spent a summer getting rejected by literary magazines to figure out how they work. And along the way, a few of them ended up not rejecting me, which was nice. But the reason I did that was to figure out best practices, so I knew how to go about this all. And at the same time, Reeve was trying to figure out how to get a magazine printed. And most of our knowledge we owe to that of Seamus Heaney Centre, so thank you, Seamus Heaney Centre. We came about the theme last summer because around the time we started doing this, it was that very weird phase of first lockdown where none of us knew what was ever happening, but we knew nothing good was coming. So I pitched the idea to Reeve and the committee general at that point, which I think was maybe 3 or 4 of us. The committee grew over the year, and everyone, when they came on board, went, yeah, that's an idea we can do. And from there, we ended up creating a magazine in which we dealt with the past summer, which was probably the weirdest one on record. So starting off our launch tonight is the lovely Beth Garrett, who is in her 3rd year at Queen studying psychology. Some of her poetry has been published in online zine Inkstay. And my introduction to Beth, I think, was Beth knitting during a Zoom call we were both on. Yes, and it was wonderful, and I was so excited by it. So we judged all pieces anonymously, and Beth's piece was chosen for the visceral heat imagery in it. There was something that really grabbed all of us by the way she described Florida heat. And there was this wonderful thing Beth captured, which is how time moved this summer. And I think we were all just absolutely awestruck when we read it. And so Beth, if you want to take it away and read Sunshine State for us.
Hi everyone, so I'm going to be reading my poem Sunshine State. Losing summer is not like losing sleep in that absolute sense. The sun still shines, the bees float around my garden, the flowers still bloom. And yet sometimes I find myself gazing sadly out the window, my hair the longest it's been since I was 16. I miss you, but I have survived missing you, and I'll see you again, smiling in your too hot car with your broken AC and your warm laugh, and the Florida heat waxing through the window and the air building up to a storm. I won't lie and say I can't survive without you. I could, but then again, I just don't want to. That's it.
About midway through the editorial process, we realized we wanted to order this somewhat chronologically, and when we read your piece, we all just went, that's how we start the issue. And it was just such a brilliant moment of epiphany when we got to it. And so thank you for that piece. It makes me so happy. And next up, we have Jamie Anderson, who is a 3rd year student studying English with creative writing from Portaferry. He's an aspiring author with an interest in crime and horror fiction. And the reason we chose Jamie's piece was the all-encompassing sensory imagery that we found in it. And we were very particularly disposed to the piece after a name drop of a certain girl band that the editorial team all has a massive soft spot for. And I just remember the absolute joy of getting to review this piece, and it just, I'm going to say this about every piece, but it really did, and we loved the way Jamie captured the little moments we lost this summer. So Jamie, if you want to take it away.
Hi, I'm Jamie, and I'm going to be reading my short prose piece called Lost Things. Summer was taken from us the way most lost things are. Down the back of the sofa, crushed by the stained cushions your mom turned over to hide the yogurt stain you left in your infancy. Or perhaps, in most extreme cases, on an icy road on a pitch black night, with shattered glass as petite diamonds shattered upon the road, and flashing lights which scream against the darkness as a mother left behind by her child, gone forever. Summer was meant to be the promise of freedom, of escape, of some sense of spiritual autonomy, of driving down a carriageway at 11 o'clock at night, soaring at 60 miles an hour, feeling as though if you were to go any faster, you, and the radio blaring to the tune of The Killers or Fleetwood Mac or even Girls Aloud, would ascend into some subsequent state of being, ethereal. Summer was meant to be laughing with your friends, laughing with him, whose lips made you blush even after his headlights had cut around the corner and left you to your aching elation, meant to be lying awake against the unsettled darkness of your room, waiting for the gentle buzz of your phone as though it's a kiss sent just for you, meant to be grinning as though a life apart from him, from this summer, was an impossibility rather than an inevitability, meant to be.
I love that I got to follow the subsequent effects of this piece, as you keep a very well updated Twitter, and it made me very happy. And I just kept butting in with the worst things to say, but it really did. I love seeing that your entire family read this piece. Yeah, it is just such a wonderful piece. So next up, we have Emma Buckley, who is taking this call from the outskirts of Limnavati, and hoping her dogs won't run into the room. Well, I'm hoping they do. So blocked out of most of our heads is the memory of, I think it was March 13th was the day, in the Republic of Ireland at least, lockdown commenced. For me, I have very little memories of that day as I was recovering from COVID brain. However, in what Emma writes about in this piece, he somehow captured what felt like a universal experience of what happened that day. And it almost feels like you can find it in a historical archive, like from years onward. And I love it. And it's so perfectly melancholy, and it doesn't know what's coming, and it's wonderful. And Emma, would you like to take it away?
Yes, thank you, Caitlin. So my name is Emma, and I'll be reading this prose poem or whatever it is called The Year of. We called it the year of nothing, the year of blank, the year of question mark. It might have started with the first news report. I remember how we tried to ignore it, the two of us at the kitchen counter, slow dancing to the ink spots, forgetting those old love songs were written when they thought the world was ending. It might have started with that morning lecture, cancelled 2 hours beforehand. We didn't talk about it because I wouldn't have gone anyway, not with the rain ravishing the windows and you dozing beside me. It might have started with the cancelled gig at the speakeasy. I hadn't seen you very much lately. Or you. Or you either. Fuck, where were you? The email came through telling us not to show up. I just finished putting my lipstick on when I realised the entire world seemed to have packed up and gone home. So picture me, crying on the dorm room floor, hiding from the windows, dressed up, on time, gorgeous, alone. So many missed calls. Summer wouldn't answer the phone. The stay-at-home order and the dinners at my desk, forgetting to speak aloud to anyone for a few days on end. The sunflowers turning to each other instead of the sun, sleeping in until 11, 12, 1. The time we fought so bad over the phone that I thought it was over, simmering in the homes of our respective mothers, too ravenous for touch to get a single word out of our mouths, to say anything that wasn't a synonym for enough. The flight cancelled, the gig postponed again, then cancelled. I was banging my head against the wall to pass the time when puzzles and playlists stopped cutting it. The parade cancelled, then put online. The anxious vomiting, sleeping through the mornings. The birthday party, illegalized. The 3 photos on my camera roll between saying goodbye and seeing you again encompassed 2.5 months because there was nothing I wanted to remember, except for my dog chasing the bumblebee, and a text you sent me, and a picture of the sea. A shrine for what I wanted summer to be.
I'm not sure how well people are going to be able to see it, but we have, what I love about this issue is we have a dual poet photographer in this issue, Cait. And next to the year of is this fantastic picture. Oh, Emma's showing it too. Wonderful. Oh, now we're all joining in. But there's just something about those two that when we went to go put everything together that went so perfectly. I think it was just the thing of hands. There's recently in the workshop group that a few of us belong to been a lot of discussion about hands and yearning, and I know for a fact Emma's sitting there with a tattoo of hands on her. And it was just, I wanted to show off some of our lovely photography during this call. And next up we have Phenix with Gothic 19. My God. So before I give you some heads up about the piece, Faye studies first year zoology and is Canadian Northern Irish. So when we first read this piece, there was something so lovely about the fractured structure Faye implements in her work. And on top of that, dear Christ, this inspired horror in us in a way no other piece did. I felt like I was having a heart attack reading this piece, but it was great, and that's what I wanted. I'm so excited for you all to hear this piece. There's something so terrifying about how Faye summed up the zeitgeist in such short little paragraphs. So do you want to take it away, Faye?
Yeah, thank you, Caitlin. I'm Faye, and this is Gothic 19. There's a fog over your head, white wisps that curl into the wrinkles of your brain, nestling there like how a tick buries its head in dog flesh. Run, screams the news. Hide. Keep the doors shut and wait for the monster to pass. Hope no one you care about got caught in its grasp. Hope you don't see any bodies in the street. Time isn't allowed through the front door, but its whispers still leak through the keyhole. How long has it been? The hours are too short and the minutes are too long. It's been weeks, it's been months. You'll wonder if it'll be years. Keep your hands busy, of course. Idle hands are the devil's workshop, are they not? What would be more evil than the caged creature you are? Don't check the news, you'd get your answer. 1 becomes 20, becomes 300, becomes 4,000. Exponential increase. You learned that in school, but never thought it meant anything. There's people walking past your window. Their faces are covered and there's gloves on their hands. Plague Dr. Chic revamped the 21st century. Your phone says it's been 3 weeks, but your body's still stuck on day 5. You blink and an hour has passed. There's a curse that flits about. May you live in interesting times. It didn't sound very scary when you first read it, but then the year started with a country burning and a once-in-a-century plague. Massive floods in Indonesia, African locust outbreaks, a volcano erupted in the Philippines. There was almost a nuclear war, but did it register with the public like the helicopter crash, like the black civilian being choked to death by a white policeman? That happened in 1 month. These are interesting times, and no, I know why it's a threat.
Deeply, deeply unnerving, like I've learned most of your writing is. And that is the joy of sharing a workshop group with you. Every week I show up and you define what my nightmares are for the week, Faye. But there's just something you got in there. and it was so great. And also we have another Cait picture with it. So we're going to do a 5-minute break now if anyone needs to go get more tea, wine, gin, or other beverage, or just needs to take a quick breather.
2 hours later.
Oh, okay. I think we have everyone back now. So I've already given an accidental introduction to Bebhinn. She's a third-year politics, philosophy, and economics student who quite smartly dropped the economics. She's from England, but she is currently living in Stranmillis because she is smarter than me and does not live in the Holy Lands. She's mostly a prose writer. The reason we picked this piece is it was brimming with life at a time where most of us were focused on death, and it was so refreshing to sit down and read this piece that was so full of characters and had such a bittersweet tone, and one of the most interesting slants on grief we got the privilege to read throughout the review process. And fun fact, this was the first piece we ever decided, yes, this is going in the issue. And so, Bebhinn, would you like to take it away with Unpicking?
Yep, I'm just going to read the sort of first half of it because it's really long. So I'll probably just read until I feel like that is enough and you've had enough. Okay. The haberdashery and repairs shop where I got my first job closed this summer. It was always on the way out, even when I worked there. Back then, they were only paying their Saturday girls the grand sum of £3.33 an hour, so the summer holidays were the real chance to get your pocket money in. I'd end a day with £25 in my pocket and swagger into town sumptuous in my wealth, scattering cash on chocolate and books and later ill-advised bottles of wine-based drink which would make us sick in the park bushes. Time rushes by in a river these days, and it's strange to think that's how I spent my weekends years ago, leaning my full weight on the shop counter, waiting for my life to start. The sun shone on the window panes, glittering and glancing, bleaching the cobbled street outside, but we papered it out with the children's knitting patterns we couldn't sell. Babies fronted these instructions in brown paisley jumpers, their smiles a little faded by the years and sunstroke, peeling away at the corners. Minutes meandered in that bubble, my geography textbook tucked in a nook under the till as I unpicked stitches with my left hand and highlighted passages with my right. Groins, natural and unnatural. That would be 1075, Mrs. Johnson. A turn of the page. Cave, arch, stack, stump. And how many meters of cord today, Miss Cutter? We had our regulars, some warm and chatty, others tight-lipped and unfriendly, some inordinately rich and others so mean they dispute over pennies until you'd snap back the measuring tape and suggest they just bought something new instead. There was the elderly gentleman who only called the shop to talk about his late wife, just to find someone to cry with, even if that someone was 15 and boxed in between clothes rails and an ironing board and a too-short lunch break. The job seekers with their open, hopeful faces who would get their suits fixed for free. The slow ones who'd dither in at 5 to 5, ignoring the itching desperation of the Saturday girl who'd reached the end of Chapter 4, Coastal Features, and wanted to treat herself to a well-earned recreation ground sesh. Then the irregulars, a very small child who bought £200 worth of wool and left us all speechless. Crocheters, knitters, darners and stitchers, first-timers, old-timers, tourists and the lost. Punks after leather jacket patches, mothers after reams on reams of name labels. One woman who deposited a skunk on the counter, asking us to make it a harness. I spent half an hour disinfecting the counter after she disappeared into the afternoon's warmth. Skunks trotting along loyally behind her. And that's it.
You reading that piece aloud added so much wonderful life to it. It's quite a naturally funny piece with how you describe the customers that come in, but with the inflections you added there, I genuinely was like holding back, like ugly laughing with how you described like the throwing down of the skunk. So next we are having Hephzibah read the final poem in the issue, and it was at that point we had decided we were going to try and do something chronological, and how this poem fit in is it felt like the feelings most of us get every September of, oh my god, I've just wasted an entire summer. And it just fit that so wonderfully, and it felt so natural to leave the issue there So Hephzibah, would you like to take it away?
Yeah, hi. Okay, so this is my wee poem, Someday, then. Leaves fall outside, it's raining. A car passes by. You brought me tea in my special mug. I haven't had any yet. I'm clutching it in my hands, keeping them warm. You sit beside me, watching the leaves. The rain falls. I'm watching you as you smile to yourself, clutching your tea like me. I meant to do so much this summer. You glance at me. You smile. We sip our tea as the leaves fall.
I love this poem. It just is such a lovely little scene. Makes me really happy to read, and I know I've said that about every piece, but it's because every piece made me happy except this next piece, which just made me laugh. This next piece is by Seamus Heaney creative writing master student Dara McWade. Sorry. This next piece is called Crabs. We picked this piece, sorry, I'm watching Jasper off the corner of my eye and now Faye. We picked this piece because, my God, this piece made us laugh. We had been trudging through review. I think we were on our last week of review. We were all exhausted and we all just came to this piece and went, I couldn't stop laughing. But because we didn't know how to formulate how absurd this was, but also how we all had something so similarly absurd. While Dara was watching crabs dance on a beach, I was watching Grey's Anatomy because I found the medical terminology comforting. But like everyone I talked to had a different like weird thing they did to comfort themselves during lockdown. And in Dara's piece, he explores what it means to be comforted by digital crabs on a beach. So Dara, do you want to take it away?
Sure, Caitlin. Hi, this is Crabs. It's not actually that funny. It's actually very serious. Yeah. I woke up about midday. I didn't check the clock, so I'm not sure what time it was exactly. Sun was high and hot at that point, and I kept the blinds and windows closed. It didn't take me long to figure out what the first thing I was going to do after getting out of bed would be. I sat at my desk, turned on the computer, headed to www.youtube.com and watched the 10-hour crab rave. And I have stayed there for 10 hours. No toilet breaks, no breakfast, lunch, dinner. I have stayed sitting there on the little plastic chair at my tiny wooden desk in that dingy bedroom far from home, and I watched the little orange crabs rave until the video was over. And they rave so good. I don't know what the music is, but also I know it now better than any other song I've ever heard. I know the rhythms of it and how it matches the thousands of crabs that are there, spread along a rocky beach, trapped on this gorgeous green island. The trees are fidelitas with a detailed leaf pattern, animated by shadows as the sun shines and moves across the sky. The sea is still, but reflective, a shiny turquoise ocean that betrays its fake digital nature. I don't care how fake it looks, and neither do they. The crabs make a life for themselves amongst their people, moving their spindly, imprecise limbs on their lonely paradise, working together for the good of the dance. Something about that mixture of high and low detail on the models makes it look serene and beautiful. I want to keep looking. More than look, I want to be there amongst the crabs, clicking my pincers precisely with the beat. I wanted to get up and dance, but I couldn't. My body wouldn't respond. My human body ceased to exist. I was a crab. I was moving, but it wasn't the old body of flesh and hair and red blood and bone, but a new body of shell and meat and spiked chelipeds and chitin. My favorite part is when one of the crabs, I call him Hips, starts thrusting himself backwards and forwards on his 6 little tibias. They put him on top of a rock. Clearly, he's the star crab of the group. This one may have no discernible identifying features, being that these thousands of crabs all share the same model, but they bring something special to the tribe. Another crab spider walks in a circle, bringing her pointed legs down so hard they burst the calm beach into sparkling disco. Fragmented sand turned to fairy dust in the sunset. I've eaten crab legs before. These were not those legs. These legs were powerful, built to keep legions of enemies away. The more I looked, the more I saw that they weren't standing on the beach. The crabs float on the digital island, guests from another dimension, observing the uncanny world through black teardrops stuck out from an armored head. I never used to spend my days inside. I was chased out by a claustrophobia creeping along my skin, or by the calls of family that I lived with. We would walk together, see the outside world and its parks, its beaches, its trees. Those calls don't happen anymore. But I'm still not spending my days inside. I'm there, on the island of crabs, another guest in digital paradise, dancing with the crowd. The colors change in the video, from a lush blue day to an amber that glows like a sandstorm. The crabs wind down after the sun sets and fall into a deep violet sleep. They return to their caves, happy with their day of dancing, another beautiful day in the sun, focused and warm and together with their family. They all live there and will continue living there forever. Tomorrow they have another 10-hour crab rave. I return to bed now. It was a good day. I have been a crab. Maybe tomorrow I won't go to that island, but I know that family are there for me, waiting. I don't need to close the window or blinds before I go to sleep. They've been closed a long time now.
You said that video once.
Oh God, I know I'm supposed to introduce the final piece, but I need a moment to recover from that. That was wonderful, Dara. There's something about the line that I think hooked us all, which was the line, "and they rave so good," at a time in which we are all missing nightclubs. I think there has been, Reeve and I had a fight that would have happened if the real launch was happening, where I discussed how we would have had a fight if the in-person launch was happening about how many pints we had to stay for before we were allowed to go for Kremlin, and then we actually had a fight over it. Not a real one though, I don't think we're capable of fighting at this point. So, our final and very fitting last piece is from Cait Phenix, an MA poetry student at Seamus Heaney Centre, who used to be vice president of Scribblers, and it was such a joy when we found out the identity of who submitted this piece, because one of the parts of review is we would read out the pieces to make sure we had fully gotten them. And I just remember this piece being read out and like having tears coming down my face, because review was a long and hard process, but also this poem just evokes absolutely everything. And I think what caught me about it was it captured what man-built landscapes look like when humans would no longer exist within them. And it was terrifying. I've never been confronted with that before. It felt apocalyptic in the best way. So Cait, if you want to take it away.
Yeah, thanks for all the kind words and putting this together tonight. It's been really fun. Yeah, great to hear everybody read and be back with the Scribblers, who I miss every day. Okay, so this is called Losing August. The lovers' lanes are empty. They've resigned to being roads. Drained swimming pools fill with fallen leaves. Drive-in movies become vacant lots. Tarmac fields of parking spots. Tattered paperbacks return to quiet shelves. Empty sunscreen bottles fold in on themselves. Summer shakes off briskly. A wet dog shudders out of a river. Enticed by the day's good looks, betrayed by its sudden iciness, he whimpers on the bank, freezing wet and wondering, when did the water get so deep? When did the current change?
Thank you so much for that reading. Also, thank you so much for the art you submitted. Two of the pieces in the issue are Cait's, and they follow Emma's piece and Faye's piece. And with them, they capture the exact emotions, and I feel like there was just telepathy going on when everyone submitted things, and it still scares me to this day, even though I was a part of putting together the issue, it still scares me how well it came together. And a big part of that was my fellow editors, who are all on the call, and they terrify me every day how well they keep me, who is a very flighty person, grounded. They are really the big reason that this issue came together. I cannot thank them any more than I just keep seeing hive mind in the chat. I think at this point we have built up a hive mind of, I can't have a thought without at least one of them also having the thought. Editing this magazine is probably going to be one of the best things I've achieved at university, and I'm fine with that. This has been so nice tonight to see so many faces. I had to miss issue pickup because I have moved back to Dublin for a remainder of the semester, and getting to see contributors' faces and getting to see like the effect of all of you getting to read your pieces means so much to me, and especially for people whose like first piece published this is. It meant so much to me to get to see the effect for all of you, because I just remember being absolutely terrified when my first piece came out, and it was just, I was left in a void of just dealing with the emotions, and it's nice to see us all come together to chat and hear the pieces, and I just want to say thank you all so much for that. There's now an argument going on in the chat about what the best city is. If if people want to stay on the call and chat, you are more than free to. So with that, I will pass you off to President Reeve to finish off the night.
Yeah, I feel like I'm in this pattern now of saying that I love people after Scribblers events. I'm in love with all of our contributors. I'm sorry, guys. It's the way it is. But yeah, that was so good, gang. I'm gonna